All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am no one, and in today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about the PTR TTK changes that I've been testing for the last couple of days. I've gotten about 4 hours into testing. I obviously don't know everything. There's a lot of stuff that's inconclusive. I wanted to get you guys a head start for a couple of reasons. Number one, I was going to do this video because I didn't know if these changes would go live. I had a comment post on my YouTube channel saying that, you know, they announced that it may not be coming out this week. And I was like, okay, cool. I still want to talk about these changes because there's some major things that I want to see improved. And I wanted to get this video to kind of talk to you guys and, you know, basically like what I like to do with my community is talk to you guys and like bounce ideas off of you guys. And, you know, I become better for it because you guys give me information and, you know, we come to a better conclusion, you know, and if I'm wrong, you know, then you guys can call me out and I could say, hey, by the way, I was an idiot in this last video, and it's fun for everybody. That's always fun for everybody. But yeah, anyways, it's coming out today anyways. These TTK changes are coming out and I wanted to talk about the pros and cons from my perspective and kind of give you guys a head start before the servers go live here in a few hours so that you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. You guys can see where I'm coming from on this, and, you know, as a community, we can provide feedback to Intrepid to make these changes better. Because overall, this is the first balance change. Steven came out and said today, this is the first balance change. They're going to continue to iterate upon this, and obviously it's not finalized. And so we're going to have some bumpy phases here. And I think we just need to provide good feedback to get them in the right direction. And that's the goal of this video. So enough yapping about what this video is about. Let's dive into it. Now, overall, there are some pros and cons to the TTK changes. And I'm going to talk about the pros first, and then I'm going to talk about the cons from my perspective. The pros, they really changed how Enchanting works, and I think for the better. Before, I wanted to show you an example. Right now, I'm in the Ashes Codex. Feel free to go check it out. This is a very good resource that you can utilize. One of the earrings that you can get right now, pre these TTK changes, is a Steel Bloom earring, which you could also get currently on the PT when we're on the PTR. It changed, and so I'm doing a 1-for-1 comparison. This is the earring in rare at +0. It's 13 to 14 power rating. Now, before these PTR changes come into effect, roughly 3 power rating equals 1 fizz power. Roughly. 1 strength equals 1 fizz power. That's the current changes. What they changed it to is they inflated these numbers quite a bit. And so instead of 13 to 14 power rating, this same earring on the PTR is like 672 power rating. And they changed the overall impact. Instead of it being 3 to 1, it's more like 50 to 1, roughly. I think it was somewhere around 50 to 1. I don't know the exact number. I forget that point, but they basically changed how the formula works for power rating. And so you have a much bigger number with a much larger amount equal to 1 fizz power or 1 magic power on the PTR. Now, what this means is when we enchant this earring and to like +9, we go from 14 power rating to 23 power rating on the high end, which, you know, you guys don't have to be good at math. You can go to Google and you can do a percentage increase calculator, and you can input the starting value into the final value, and it tells you that this is a 64% increase in overall value. So going from 14 to 23, this top line only is a 64% increase. Now, the new iteration, which I cannot show you guys will be able to see it when it goes live and everything. It starts with 672, and I'm pretty sure it goes to 732. I'm going to do a brief edit here. But yeah, 672 to 732. Now, if we use the same calculator and we go input 672 at +0 and 732 at +9, what we get is a 9% increase. Now, they allowed us to increase things to +20 as well, and +20 was about an 18% increase. So overall, I like this change quite a bit for a variety of reasons. You know, number one, I don't know how I feel about the enchanting system as a whole. If it exists, I want it to exist in a lower value, because personally, I like my PvP games being decided based off of skill instead of being decided based off of gear. When things are based off of gear, you have issues. You have issues with people wanting to play the game long term. Also, you know, different hacks or exploits that can happen where potentially you can find a gold glitch or a duplicate resource glitch to make more gold. Stuff like that is a lot more impactful when enchanting is more impactful. And so in that situation, when your gear can be 50, 60, over 100% different in power rating, each individual piece, if you have an infinite money glitch, you can all of a sudden make a build that is just way stronger than anybody else out on the battlefield. Now, I know from my experience in the past, MMORPG players, they will bend over backwards for a 1 to 2% damage and mitigation change. Like they will claw and scrape for an extra 1% or 2%. And so I don't think the number even needs to be as high as what it currently is. With the current change is 9% at +9. But at least with this change, we now have a differing thing, right? So that's a terrible sentence. But the point is this is at +0 versus +9. Obviously the first three values are really easy to get to. And so if you're at +3, it's almost 100% to get to +3 currently. If you get your piece to +3, the difference between +3 and +9 is roughly 6%. And so somebody at a +9 value, that one piece is only 6% better than your one piece on the top end for this specific power rating. Now, what they have also done is your constitution rating, your strength and all this, it still provides 3 phys power rating, but because they changed the overall value from 3 to 1 from phys power rating to phys power to now like 50, your strength and constitution values now don't provide as much. And so another thing that they've done is your armor does not provide a lot of damage. And so it depends on where your piece is at. So the higher it is on the list, the more you're going to have. And so Rosarium, for instance, starts at around, because its strength is on the second line or third line, it is around 130 strength for Rosarium and blue at level 20, if I remember correctly. Academus, which has strength on like the 4th or 5th line on the set, which is a little bit further down, it only had 10 strength. And so you look at this and overall, like you're going from, a fraction of a phys power rating to 1 to 2 phys power rating for the top end chess piece. And so overall, like people stacking all of these waterfall stats, it's not as impactful as it used to be. And so the polished tin waste, for instance, that has, 3 or 4 waterfall stats. Let's look at this. My goodness. So most people know this right now, but if we look at the polished tin and heroic, you see we have constitution, we have strength, we have mentality, and we have dexterity. And all these are waterfall stats. Obviously, you guys know this. And in the current setting, this polished tin belt is extremely powerful. It is now a lot less powerful under the current setting due to, everything that it provides. And so what this means is, Enchanting has taken a slight nosedive overall in value. I think before, I was going to do an entire video talking about how this is a PvE game because it's player versus economy. Whoever has the most gold that can enchant your gear the best is going to win in the game with how valuable enchanting was. And so another way to say PvE is player versus exploiting. So if you can hypothetically find an infinite money glitch and you can constantly enchant things and keep working through this, same thing's going to happen. You're going to have a huge advantage over the rest of the community. And so once again, like there's just so many values to having less impactful gear as a whole for the community. Like if somebody's if they cheat and they exploit, hypothetically, if people cheat and exploit in the game and their gear is only now 4, 5, 6% better on the top end than yours, it's not nearly as impactful as when it's 100% better or 200% better in some of these cases with some of this gear. And so huge change, really nice. I'd still would personally like to see it come down, but I'd obviously like to hear your guys' opinion on this as well. So I thought that was a very nice change. I thought that was very good overall as a whole. What are the cons though? Well, the cons that we have so far is they want us to test the high end. Well, before we get to the cons, I have one other thing I wanted to talk about. I'm gonna pivot here. They've also added value to a few other bonuses. Leeching now has value in the game. Now, as an example, I was playing on my rogue, and I put on 3 pieces of the Academus, the Carfin gear, the Leeching set, and I went out in front of Ursine Caves. Now, I am a Halcyon enjoyer, and that's why I went out there, because there are 3 ads out front of Halcyon that are very tough to deal with. It's 2 bears and it's a paladin. And on a non-healing archetype, those things normally chew me apart. Well, with my blue gear, where I'm missing a ton of damage relative, like I had 200 fizz power, but with the leeching, I sat there and I face tanked both bears and the paladin and killed all of them. It took a little bit of time with the lower damage, but I was out there and like my health bar didn't drop below 50%. So leeching has a huge impact. I know that I didn't test everything. I didn't have time to test everything, guys. I just wanted to provide an example. There are now stat bonuses out there that have gotten changed quite a bit. And so it falls on us, the community, to go out and test those things. Now, leeching, it has a 25% chance to proc, if I remember correctly. It is not a guaranteed status. And so there's some times where you will be fighting ads and you'll be like, oh my God, I am invincible. You'll be fighting a person. You're like, I am a god. I am a golden god. This is insane. And there's other times where it doesn't work at all. And you're like, what the fuck happened? And that's all due to proc chance. Now, personally, I don't want that proc chance to exist. I would like a lower value of leeching. You know, if you want to have a 25% proc rate and provide 100%, why don't we just flip it? 100% proc chance on 25%, right? Like that's what I would rather have. I would like to have consistent leeching personally. And I don't think it needs to be 25%. I think it should probably be more in like the 15% range, 20% range maybe. That's just my personal opinion. I think that would be the better route to go. I want the consistency. For a stat like that on some archetypes, knowing that you have incoming healing is really important. And it doesn't feel very good when sometimes you have it and sometimes you don't. And so less impactful, but more consistent would be something that I would personally want. But that's just my opinion. Now, there are other set stats that got adjusted. I don't know a whole lot about them, but there's stuff like that where some stuff is now better, which I think is great. Before, leeching wasn't valuable. The Carfin gear was not valuable at all. Everybody just stacked damage, and now there's a case to be made that you might want to have leeching depending on the content that you're going into, which I think, personally, is a good change. Now, let's talk about what I think the bad is so far, which, isn't so bad anymore because now we just get to test it on Alpha 2. So I want to caveat this. During the test, what they did is they gave us blue level 20 gear. They gave us level 20 rare, Carfin, Academus, all this. And then the level 10 gear, like the polished tin stuff that everybody that is running around with, for instance, like this Wace in Heroic, they gave it to us in Uncommon. And the difference between Heroic and Uncommon is now instead of having these 4 sexy waterfall stats, we have 2 waterfall stats. And so they were giving us this gear in Uncommon, and they were giving us level 20 gear in Rare. And currently, the way it's set up is some level 10 gear at higher levels is better than level 20 gear at lower levels, like Rare. So if you get a Heroic, Epic, or Legendary level 10, it can be better than Rare level 20 stuff, especially depending on the stats. We didn't get the one-for-one comparison to test these things. And so currently, on Alpha 2, I'm running the Heroic Polished Tin Belt, and I didn't have the chance to run a one-for-one comparison with what I have, which was disappointing. I also have legendary weapons. I do have the Golbo's, was it the Goblin Skin Stripper, I think it's called. So I have this in legendary, and it has 320 to 373 fizz power. If you compare this number to rare, you have 245 on the high end versus 373 on the high end. So if we come over here to the percentage change calculator, just to give you guys an example. So we have 245. So we'll input 245 here, and then we will switch it over, and we will go to legendary, and we will go to 373. We will see that the change difference here is substantial. It's over 50%, 52.5% difference in base damage for these things. Now, what they did do is they allowed us to upgrade these pieces to level 20, which was great. So we did get, I was using the Carfin one. I don't know what it's called now. I think it's, regardless, they allowed us to upgrade, so the rare piece to level 20, which was nice, but you see it's still less of a value, even at this difference, than just a legendary piece. Now, I don't know what they have done. I don't know if they have changed these values, if legendary is still going to be 50% better than rare. Maybe it's only 10% better. Maybe it's 15%. We didn't get a chance to look at those. We didn't get a chance to look at what the top end value is. And so I had to do a lot of projections here. And so what I did is I kept all my gear around where I was at, +8, +9, and I upgraded my weapons on the PTR to +20 so that I had 9% more damage with both those weapons. And so both those weapons were giving 9% more, which means that, basically I was functioning like I was 40% less than what the Alpha 2 weapons currently are. And so I had to do some projecting based off of stuff that I don't know, which is the bad part of where I'm at, and we'll figure this out in a couple of hours. Long story short, I was dueling one of the guys in my guild, a friend of mine, and he was still hitting me with 2200 snipes. I was in all heavy armor. I was trying to stack as much, basic heavy armor resistance as possible without going full tank. I wanted to see what the low end value that I was going to get hit for still with these changes. And so with middling gear, with whatever, I was still getting hit by like 2200 snipes, right? And so if we can hit 40 to 50% harder with all of our gear and everything, if the difference between, our rare stuff to our epic and legendary stuff is 50% fully enchanted, that means that potentially this 2200 snipe turns into just under, just around a 3K snipe, hypothetically. So when I look at this, I'm like, okay, well, I'm already hitting people for 3K snipes on live. If we're extrapolating these changes, it looks like the damage is still roughly the same. And this is the low end. Like I'm in heavy, I have the max resistances, and I'm still getting hit for 2200. What happens when I optimize my build to be better against mages, where I want to run a few light armor pieces to have the magical resist? Well, I'm going to lose I'm going to lose more physical resist, so this 2200 probably jumps to like 2400, and so I'm still probably getting hit for over 3K. And so on the top end, we didn't get to test this stuff. And so it's, the analogy that I would use is like, let's say, you bring in your car to the mechanic, right? And you say, hey, mechanic, every time my car goes over 65 miles an hour, it starts shaking and it sounds like it's going to fall apart. And they're like, okay, I'm going to bring it in, I'm going to test it. And you leave for a couple hours and you come back, and they come back and they're like, hey, everything's fine. I drove the vehicle for 60 miles an hour for 30 minutes and I didn't encounter any issues. Like there's nothing wrong with this vehicle. And you're sitting there and you're like, clearly, like it's when you get over 65 miles an hour that's the issue. And you didn't even get to that point to identify the potential issue. And the issue with our current PTR test, which we now get to alleviate, is that we didn't get to test this top end gear. We didn't get to test and see what the top end gear changes, what the value ratings for legendary are, and what the enchants are. And so because of that, we don't have a proper glean into what top end damage is. And so we're now going to get that the next couple days. There will be a lot of feedback coming in to Intrepid. I heard from a lot of people that the lower and medium levels were quite a bit better. Overall, even if TTK stays the same, the framework for enchanting is a lot better. This just basically means the base value for the item is now more important than the enchanting overall as a whole. It's just going to hold more weight. And so I think that's better. I think that is a good change. And I think the top end damage will probably need to be adjusted quite a bit. So I wanted to kind of give you guys an idea so you knew what you're getting into with this. Hopefully this wasn't too long-winded, but that was overall my experience. I was still getting hit pretty hard even on the top end experience, and that wasn't even with the best gear. That wasn't even with the gear that I currently have. Now I've heard some arguments from people saying, oh, when they come out with the new harvesting and the new collecting, it'll be a lot harder to get legendary items. Well, yeah, sure, but still eventually people will have legendary items, and you still will need to know what the top end is. Unless they were magically going to wipe right now and we're going to start off with all this gear, this testing the top end without top end gear just never was going to work. And yeah, like I'm in basically all epic and legendary stuff, and this test it wasn't a straight 1-for-1 comparison. I had to do a lot of extrapolating, and because of that, I very well could be wrong in this video, which will be fun to see. It'll be fun to see if I'm right or if I'm wrong, but yeah, I'll just say that in that end, I don't know. And so I'm going to end this video here. Like I said, there's a lot of good stuff here. Some people, like I said, don't like the big numbers. They don't like the fact that, it's showing like 1800 physical power rating, which I totally get. Like they could have just adjusted the fractions, but I understand the impact that they wanted to have. They wanted the enchanting value to have less of an impact. And that was the way they went about doing it. There's a million different ways you can go about doing it, but that's the way that they went. I'm going to end this video here. I'm done yapping. You guys let me know in the comment section what you think. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.